Ahn Sahng-hong was a Korean Christian minister and founder of Witnesses of Jesus Church of God. Shortly after his death in 1985, a schism took place dividing Witnesses of Jesus Church of God into two sects: New Covenant Passover Church of God and what is today known as World Mission Society Church of God. Both organizations claim him as the founder. New Covenant Passover Church of God regard Ahn as a teacher. World Mission Society Church of God regard Ahn as God. Early life. Ahn was born to Korean Buddhism parents on 13 January 1918 in the small, rural village of Myeongdeok-ri in the North Jeolla province at a time when Korea was under Japanese rule. The family migrated to Busan, where Ahn grew up in the Hyundai district, the city in which he would later found his church. Conversion to Christianity. FOM 1937. During the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II, Ahn and his mother lived in Japan over a 9-year period. He returned to Korea in 1946 after the war, and began attending the local congregation of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Incheon in 1947. Ahn reported getting revelations in 1953, and renounced his Buddhist faith and was credo baptized on 1948 Indiana 1956. Ahn proclaimed, "Within 10 years there will be a second coming of Jesus." On 5 April 1958 he married Ha Wang-won son, with the marriage producing 3 children. Founds Church. Ahn grew critical to teachings in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and the church excommunicated him in March 1962 over disputes about the cross as a religious symbol. 23 people followed Ahn and left the church, and 2 years later, on 28 April 1964, Ahn established his church, Witnesses of Jesus Church of God in Busan. Witnesses of Jesus Church of God expanded to 13 congregations in South Korea before Ahn's death in 1985. Beliefs. Major dogmata are outlined in Doctrine Manual of the Witnesses of Jesus Church of God and detailed in the more than 24 books that Ahn wrote. His original publications as well as scans of his notes and extant sermons have been made available online. Ahn argued that the practice of the apostolic early church had been distorted, and his restorational doctrines and practices included the following: women should wear head covering while they pray. Baptism is the first step towards salvation. The Sabbath should be kept on Saturdays, not Sundays. Christmas should not be celebrated as Jesus' birthday because it is the anniversary of the Sun God. The cross is considered a form of idolatry. The Passover and Festival of Unleavened Bread should be kept. The other feasts in Book of Leviticus chapter 23, First Fruits, Festival of Weeks, Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and Feast of Tabernacles should be kept as well. Eschatology. Ahn, like most other Christians, believed in the second coming of Jesus, had predicted a second coming within 10 years in 1956. In the tradition of Seventh-day Adventist eschatology, which had been suppressed by Kuniaki Koiso during his wartime rule of Korea, Ahn further believed to be living in the end time and that the second coming was imminent. As Korean Protestants earlier in the 20th century had perceived Japanese occupation by identifying symbolically with the history of Israel, Ahn, through biblical exegesis in his book The Mystery of God and the Spring of the Water of Life, interprets the Gospel of Matthew chapter 24 verse 32 to 34 to suggest that the world could come to an end in 1988, 40 years after the independence of the modern state of Israel. Ahn's original The Mystery of God and the Spring of the Water of Life is made available online. World Mission Society Church of God, in the later editions of the book, have deleted information pertaining to the failed prediction. Ahn, in his book The Bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep in a discussion based on scriptural typology. presented his conclusion that the world would come to an end in 2012. Mother. By 1978, a group of people centered around a female member, Ahn Sahng-hong, within the Witnesses of Jesus Church of God, claimed by a chain of scriptural eisegesis that they published in writing that was the only bride, the heavenly Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem on earth, or the Comforter sent by God. Quote, they asserted that she was our mother who has come down from heaven, and that Ahn was Christ. Ahn and the group around her claiming she was the spiritual mother were expelled from the church, and Ahn dedicated a book entitled Problems with the New Jerusalem, the Bride and Women's Veils to the Controversy, in which he writes. Ahn concludes his rebuking of Ahn Sahng-hong's death. Following a heart attack during lunch on the 24th of February 1985, Ahn had a stroke en route to hospital and died the next day in the Catholic Maryknoll Hospital in Yeong District, Busan. Ahn Sahng-hong was 67 years old. He was survived by his wife and 3 children. Ahn was buried in a public grave located in Soka Cemetery 30 kilometers north of Busan. For the time of his burial in 1985, a single tombstone stood beside the grave, the epitaph reading, "The grave of the prophet Elijah Ahn Sahng-hong." Quote, after the death of his wife Her Wang-won Sun 23 years later on the 4th of September 2008, she was buried in the plot beside Ahn, and a new tombstone carrying both the names replaced the 1985 stone, repeating the epitaph. Legacy. The unexpected death of Ahn gave rise to a power struggle within Witnesses of Jesus Church of God. In the church wanted to continue along the lines laid out by Ahn, but others wanted to reintroduce the concept of a spiritual mother embodied in the 41-year-old woman, Jang Gil-ya. After an extraordinary general meeting in Witnesses of Jesus Church of God on the 4th of March 1985 failed to reconcile the opposing fractions. A schism divided the church into 2 sects: New Covenant Passover Church of God and Witnesses of Ahn Sahng-hong Church of God. New Covenant Passover Church of God. One group of people in Witnesses of Jesus Church of God stayed on the premises in Busan. Among them were Ahn's wife and the 3 children. The sect is now known as New Covenant Passover Church of God. Ahn's son Ahn Kwang-sup is an elder in the church and continues to expound on his father's work. An outside observer visited the church and had this comment: Witnesses of Ahn Sahng-hong Church of God. Another group of people in Witnesses of Jesus Church of God, including the man Kim Joo-cheol and the woman Jang Gil-ya, wanted to reintroduce the concept of a spiritual mother. On the 22nd of March 1985, it moved from Busan to Seoul. On a meeting in Seoul on the 2nd of June 1985, it established a church called Witnesses of Ahn Sahng-hong Church of God. 2 major new doctrines were codified. Ahn Sahng-hong should be regarded as Jesus Christ, who had already come, and be titled Christ Ahn Sahng-hong, pursuant to a traditional Trinitarian view of Christian hypostasis. He was consequently also the Holy Spirit, God the Father, and thus God. Jang should be regarded as God the Mother, a female image of God, be titled Heavenly Mother or simply Mother. Together with Ahn, they be regarded as God. A change in religious practice, as reflected in the change of name from Witnesses of Jesus to Witnesses of Ahn Sahng-hong, was that prayers were conducted in the name of no longer Jesus Christ but Christ Ahn Sahng-hong. The deification of Ahn and Jong has been harshly criticized, and has led to the church being officially condemned by the National Council of Churches in Korea as an interdenominational blasphemous, heretical cult. As a central argument to the claim that Ahn should be the second coming of Jesus, and an argument for his suggested promotion of Jang Gil-ya to the Bride of the Lamb, The proposition that he fulfilled a Davidic prophecy by preaching 37 years, from his baptism the 16th of December 1948 to his death on the 25th of February 1985, is used, a period that was really only 36 years, 2 months, and 9 days. The source for the baptismal date of the 16th of December 1948 performed by a pastor Lee Myong-deok in turn is obscure, and no written record exists. In 2011, a protocol from the Seventh-day Adventist Church was discovered stating Ahn was baptized when he was 36 years old on the 9th of October 1954 by a pastor Gim Seo-jung. The investigation by the International Korean Christian Coalition Against Heresy showed that while Pastor Gim could be confirmed, no Pastor Lee Myong-deok was with the church in 1948, reducing the length of the ministry of Ahn from 36 years to 30 years and 4 months. 1988 failed Doomsday prophecy. Witnesses of Ahn Sahng-hong Church of God announced that 1988 is the end of the world by citing Matthew chapter 24 verses 32 to 34 as Ahn had done in his 1980 book, The Mystery of God and the Spring of the Water of Life. A few thousand members of Witnesses of Ahn Sahng-hong Church of God gathered on a mountain in Sojungmai and Yunji County, South Chungcheong Province, awaiting the coming of Christ. Ahn Sahng-hong, preparing for the rapture and the salvation of 144,000 souls. When Ahn failed to appear and nothing happened, the church updated his apocalyptic forecast and scheduled it to the opening of the 1988 Olympics in Seoul later that year. The members gathered and preached the end of the world would come by the end of 1988 and that Ahn would come again. Around 1997, Ahn Sahng-hong Church of God had established a non-profit organization, the Church of God World Mission Society, for the purpose of registering and managing the organization's assets.